Hey guys, it's Lotus and welcome back to another video. So I just finished binge watching Vincenzo and I wanted to talk about it. I really enjoyed it, and I think that there's a lot of stuff in the show that could appeal to a lot of people. So let me first tell you about the show. It's a Netflix drama, a Netflix K-drama. It aired from February 20th to May 2nd, 2021 of last year, and it has 20 episodes. So it's more than the usual 16 episode K-drama, and definitely more than the usual K-drama number of episodes for a Netflix show. Like normally Netflix K-dramas are 8 to 10 episodes long, and this one is 20, so that's a real treat. Okay, so let me read you the plot synopsis. At the age of 8, Park Joo-hyung went to Italy after he was adopted. He is now an adult and has the name of Vincenzo Casano, played by Son Joong-ki, who you may recognize from Descendants of the Sun. He's the main lead. He is a lawyer who works for the Mafia as a consigliere. Because of a war between Mafia groups, he flees to South Korea. In South Korea, he gets involved with lawyer Hong Cha-young. She's the type of attorney who will do anything to win a case. Vincenzo Casano falls in love with her. He also achieves social justice by his own way. Okay, so that's like a very bare bones summary. So let me go into a little bit more detail. While also introducing the cast. Okay, so here we've got Vincenzo Casano. At the age of 8, he was adopted and moved to Italy. His mother had left him at an orphanage and never came back for him. And so he has a kind of like a deep resentment against his mother, but also he has become really hard-boiled. He's adopted by foster parents and lives in Italy, and eventually ends up working for the Mafia, getting inducted into their family and becomes their consigliere, which is like their legal advisor. And what happened is that because he's in the Mafia, he has a lot of enemies. One of the enemies being his stepbrother, the heir to the Casano family, Paolo. And his brother wants him gone. So Vincenzo decides to flee to South Korea, and he has a plan. Why? Because apparently there are tons of gold bars hidden beneath a plaza building that he had rented, or he had purchased 5 years back. And his plan in coming to South Korea is to go break open the safe, get into the underground room that houses the bars, steal them away, and then run away to Malta, or the Maldives. Malta? I think it was Malta. He's planning to run away, so he's just making a pit stop in South Korea. However, he somehow unwittingly gets involved in the corruption of a big corporation, and he finds himself becoming the legal advisor to this female lawyer named Hong Cha-young in her quest to get revenge against Babel Group, this company that wants to buy the plaza building that he owns, and they want to tear it down to build their own building, and he doesn't want Babel Group to touch the building until he can get his gold out. So he teams up with Hong Cha-young to stop Babel Group. And along the way, he meets a lot of people that become his found family. He also ends up finding his long-lost mother, and he ends up having a little bit of a romance with his partner, his legal partner. There's also a lot of killings that happen, a lot of murders. Remember, he is part of the Mafia, and he's pretty cold-hearted, cold-blooded, and vengeful. So, you know, an eye for an eye, stuff like that. So he's a bit of an anti-hero, or morally ambiguous, morally gray. Like, he has a code that he lives by, but he has no problem with killing people that get in his way, as long as they're not innocent civilians. Generally, he has a rule that he doesn't kill women and children, but he makes exceptions. So yeah. So quickly, we'll just go through this. We have Vincenzo Casano, who is the main character. We have the Woo-sang law firm. Now, this law firm works for Babel Group. They represent Babel Group, and they're the ones that kind of do Babel Group's dirty work. They're the ones that do like the they're the ones that meet with politicians and meet with the prosecutor's office and try to give out bribes and stuff. So Hong Cha-young actually originally worked for Babel Group, but because of personal circumstances, she ends up becoming very hateful against them, and she leaves, she quits, and joins her father's law firm and works actively against Woo-sang law firm and Babel Group. So originally she works for the enemy, but she ends up switching sides early on, and she teams up with Vincenzo, and her and Vincenzo have a little bit of a subtle romance. It's not really big. They don't really push it that far. They're like tender looks, and it's like a slow blossoming romance. Okay, we have Jang Junwoo, who is her intern, but he's not as innocent as he seems. I'm not going to give out any major spoilers for those who have not watched the show, but keep an eye out on him. And then we have the CEO of Woo-sang law firm. He's really corrupt, and all of his associates. We have the Southeastern District Prosecutor's Office. One of the biggest enemies that you will have in the show is Choi Myung-hee. She ends up leaving the prosecutor's office and working for Woo-sang law firm, and she helps Babel Group get rid of enemies, essentially. So she's also really evil. We have Babel Group. We have the chairman, Han So, which initially, early on, you realize that he's more of a puppet. He's actually not the mastermind. You'll find out that he reports to someone else, and these are just some of the people that work for Babel Group. We have here Gyeomga Plaza, the Jipuragi law firm. This is Hong Cha-young's father's law firm. So this is her father, Hong Yu-chan, and he and his paralegal actively work against Babel Group to try to help victims who have been hurt by Babel Group's many activities. So, like, for example, Babel has a pharmaceutical branch, and their pill that they were working on had caused the deaths of many people. And so Hong Yu-chan is working to try to bring justice to the families that were harmed by Babel. Okay, then we have Gyeomga Plaza owner Cho Yong-un. I'm so sorry, I'm pronouncing everyone's name wrong. Cho Yong-un, he is actually Vincenzo's partner. The building, the plaza building, was actually bought under his name, and so he's the landlord of the building. But he actually reports to Vincenzo, and he's his partner in crime. He and Vincenzo are both trying to figure out how to get the gold out of the building. Then we have the people that live in the building, the tenants. We have this couple here who they run a pawn shop. We have this guy here who runs a dry cleaners and a tailor, and he is actually really badass. You'll see as you watch. He has a gangster history. We have this girl here who is really sly and smart. She runs a piano tutoring place. She's a piano teacher. We have this mother and son duo who run a snack bar, and often Vincenzo will go there to eat tteokbokki. So this is her restaurant is kind of the place where everyone likes to hang out. We have a Buddhist temple, two monks here who the gold is actually hidden under the Buddhist temple. So Vincenzo was constantly visiting the temple to try to figure out how he's going to get the gold out, and trying to figure out how to get the monks to leave the building so that he can get access to the underground room. And then we have a Italian restaurant run by this guy who claims to have studied in Italy, but he really is not. He's a fake. And he's really intimidated by Vincenzo because Vincenzo calls him out on his bluff right away. He does not actually know any Italian. And he's, but he's kind of he has good intentions, you know? And yeah, they often hang out at his Italian restaurant as well when the tenants are having meetings about how to deal with Babel. We have this dance studio owner who's really nimble and is good at planning. And then we also have other organizations that are involved. We have the International Security Intelligence Agency. They are, think of it like the like the CIA, for example. They are, especially An Gi-sok, he has taken it upon himself to investigate Vincenzo because Vincenzo is from the Mafia, and he's curious as to why Vincenzo is in South Korea. So he's keeping an eye out on him. And then we've got these hoodlums, this group of hoodlums and financial management. They were hired by Babel to terrorize the tenants and to get them to settle so that they can tear down the building and build Babel Towers. So they're kind of like hoodlums. And yeah, so, and then there's just some like courtroom people, like the judge who's corrupt and paid off by Babel and things like that, you know? So we have more. Most importantly, well, not most importantly, but really important, we have here actually, is Shinkwang Bank / Finance. Now, they come into the picture a lot later on in the show, like halfway through. You don't see them too often, but it's interesting thing to point out is that this family is the reason why Vincenzo's mom ends up in jail. And so you'll see them come up later, and Vincenzo has plans to get revenge on them. You'll see that later. But okay, so I've gone through a majority of the important characters and organizations that are involved in the show. Now let me tell you why I really like the show. Here are my pros. Okay, number 1, I love the concept. We've got an ex-mafia lawyer from Italy running away to South Korea and becomes a legal advisor against a corrupt corporation. But, you know, he's about justice, but not like righteous justice. He's not going to play by the rules. He's not going to play by the law. He has his own code of honor, and he'll kill people if he needs to. He'll bribe if he needs to. He'll do the dirty work, and he's not afraid to do that. So he still uses his talents as a former mafia consigliere to get what he wants and manipulate people. And I think that's really cool. We don't see that often, especially with main characters. We always end up having to kind of justify why they are a certain way, and like every bad thing they do has to be justified. But Vincenzo, he's like an eye for an eye. You know, I gotta get things done, and you're in the way, and you're an enemy. And because you are not a woman or a child, I have no problem eliminating you. So I think that was interesting that they made him that morally ambiguous, morally gray, I guess, an anti-hero. He doesn't try to justify himself and try to say like, oh, I'm killing them because it's for the greater good. No, he doesn't care about the greater good. He cares about revenge, vengeance, his description or his definition of justice and fairness. Also, into the character of Vincenzo, I think it's really cool that Song Joong-ki actually learned Italian for his role. And you see that, I don't know how fluent he is because I don't speak Italian, but he sounds pretty natural. He sounds really confident when he speaks it, and he uses Italian quite a lot throughout the show. It's not like a few phrases here and there at the beginning. Consistently throughout the show, he'll speak in Italian, and he'll converse with also Italian characters in the show, and he seems to know what he's saying, I guess. I looked it up. I think he said that he learned it, so I don't know if he's fluent in it, but at least conversational, because he uses it a lot. And I think it's really commendable to learn a whole new language just for a role. So I think that's really cool, that he really embodied the role by also learning the language. So it makes it more believable, you know? He doesn't sound stilted when he talks. He sounds like a natural. But anyone that's watching, if you know Italian, let me know how well his Italian is. Does he sound fluent? Is he fluent? I'm not quite sure. Okay. And then also, along with the plot, I like how it's both dark and funny. When I first went into it, I didn't expect it to be as funny as it was. I thought it was going to be really dark and grungy and gory and ruthless. And it was. And especially because it was a Netflix show, they didn't censor any weapons. Like often in Korean dramas, like TVN dramas, for example, if there's a weapon used to stab someone, like a knife or even a pen, they'll censor it. And even if there's a lot of blood or gore, they'll censor it as well. But because Vincenzo is a Netflix drama, they left it uncensored. So it was a lot more visceral than your usual let's say, K-drama. But then also there were a lot of funny moments. Even like Vincenzo himself, you think that he's cold and has no emotion and is always serious, but he's actually really awkward and endearing, especially when he interacts with the members of the tenants of the building. They end up becoming his found family, and he gets really soft around them. He takes them in as his own, and they become think of it as his second mafia family. But yeah. Okay, number 2. The main leads have a lot of chemistry. Like I said, Vincenzo is equal parts ruthless and awkward. So he's morally ambiguous, morally gray. So if you want someone who's not like a goody two-shoes or doesn't spout things about following the law or justice based on like the legal system, then you're gonna like him because he's a breath of fresh air. He is a villain, and he doesn't pretend not to be. He starts out as a villain, and he stays a villain throughout the show. But he's also funny. Like, he's kind of goofy, especially when he's caught off guard. He has like wide Bambi eyes sometimes when he's like confused, and I think that's like a gap moe, so I really appreciate that. And I think it's also partially due to I can't say his name, I'm sorry. Song Joong-ki's face. He has like a very youthful face. I feel okay. So I actually have not watched Descendants of the Sun. I know, I can't believe I haven't watched it. It's like one of the most watched K-dramas ever. I'm planning to go watch it, but I never got around to watching it. But I just gotta say though, I've seen pictures from the show, and he looks exactly the same. He has not aged a day. Descendants of the Sun came out in like 2015 or 2016 or something, so that's quite a few years ago. But he has not aged a day. His face is still as smooth as a baby's bottom. So he's very youthful, you know? And then we have the female lead, Hwang Cha-young. And I really loved her character. Her personality was hilarious. She's like really wacky. She's over the top. She doesn't get embarrassed about her actions. Like, she doesn't mind embarrassing herself. She's very loud. She'll tell you how it is. She's really vulgar sometimes, which is funny. She doesn't care about her image. She's really goofy, but she can be serious. And I also find it interesting that she really balances out Vincenzo really well. And she's not like the angel on his shoulder. She actually kind of low-key, she really supports him. I can't think of the word, but she goads him on. She's kind of like his cheerleader. She's like, yeah, stick it to him. Yeah, oh, you're gonna kill someone? That's okay, you know? And I think it's partially due to her previous job at Woosang, where she did corrupt things. She would help with the bribes, and she did some underhanded stuff, like under the table stuff. She would help to not kill anyone, but she would help to get rid of proponents and stuff. So she's also not morally righteous. Initially, at least, she tries to turn herself around once she leaves Woosang, but she doesn't have a problem with Vincenzo's methods. She doesn't ever stop him from doing anything. And she pretty much just like accepts him for who he is. So it's nice that she doesn't try to change him. But you know what? Vincenzo lets himself be changed anyway, and he grows a soft spot for her. So they're really cute because he's serious and she's wacky and loud, and they are a funny duo because he really he indulges her. Whenever she wants to do something, Vincenzo's like, I'm not even embarrassed. So I think what's funny is that she doesn't get embarrassed about herself, and Vincenzo doesn't get embarrassed about her. He kind of just like lets her do whatever she wants. And so I think they make a really funny power duo, a great pair. And they made the romance really light though. It was not like an overt romance. We had like a hug or two, and we got a few kisses, but they never really defined their relationship even to the end of the show. So you will be disappointed if you're hoping that they end up together, because they don't explicitly end up in a relationship. Although they leave it open-ended that they will pursue something further maybe in the future. But throughout the show, the focus is really the revenge and the story and taking down corruption, and is not really focused on the romance. So if you're hoping for romance, you might be disappointed on that front. Okay, number 3. We have many, many different villains. So many different villains of different levels with many different motives. Okay, so just for example, we have Miss Choi Myung-hee, who is one of the bigger villains in the show. She reports to the chairman of Babel. She has no problem with ordering other people to kill people. Like she's like indirectly murdering others because she will hire hitmen to get rid of proponents, people that were in Babel's way, whether they're other politicians or if they're like union workers or if they're victims of Babel who are trying to sue them. She will get rid of them, and she has no problem with that. She doesn't care about anyone but herself. Pretty much her motive is just that she wants to crush anyone who offends her, and she wants to prove that she's the best. She believes she's the best. She has a big ego, and she doesn't bow down to anyone except for Babel's chairman. But she's always thinking about how to best save herself, and like she's really calculating what is the best way to do things. She doesn't even mind implicating herself in certain situations as long as she can get what she wants in the end. So she's a scary person. You got to look out for her. Then we've got, so another example is Hanso, Chairman Jang Hanso, who is, like I said, a puppet chairman. He has a big temper, but he's not really well-spoken. He's kind of like, you can tell that he's a puppet. He's not really the mastermind behind Babel. He's put there as the face of Babel, but he doesn't have a lot of actual power. And you'll find out later who is really controlling him from behind the scenes. But I think his character is really interesting because once you find out that he is really just being used and he's actually being abused as well, you start to kind of feel for him because he ends up being a lackey. He gets demoted to a lackey and he has no power, no say. And you'll see that he actually ends up low-key developing a bromance with Vincenzo, which I wish they touched more on it, but you see them more in like the later episodes that they hang out sometimes. And ultimately, you realize that Chairman So himself is not really, Hanso is not really a villain. Like, he does small bad things, but he's being used, and he actually wants to run Babel legally. He wants to clean everything up and do things in a more legal, upright manner. And so Vincenzo ends up respecting that, and so they work together sometimes, but that happens later on in the show. And I wish that Vincenzo took Hanso under his wing a lot earlier, but you know, it is what it is. And then of course there is the real person running everything from behind the scenes, and I'm not going to tell you who it is, but they are the ultimate villain. Like, they are so evil. They are ruthless. They are a psychopath. They have no mercy, no empathy for anyone. They don't care about what they have to do as long as they get what they want. They are really evil. Like, a really big enemy. Like, I'm trying to think, when was the last time I saw an enemy that was a villain that was this evil and crazy. Like, he's a maniac. But yeah. And then, of course, we have the smaller villains, like people in the prosecutor's office who are corrupt, people in the law firm that's corrupt, and stuff like that. And then and they're all being used by Babel Group. So there's different levels of evil. You know what I mean? Okay. And let's see. 1, 2, 3. Number 4. The fourth reason why I really enjoyed this drama, and also low-key one of the main reasons why I started watching. And it's because that on my drama list, which is another website that you can use to learn about dramas that are coming out, is that there was the bromance tag under the show, and I was like, oh, bromance? I can always use some bromance in my K-dramas, and I was pleasantly surprised with how many mini bromances there were. Like, there wasn't like one big one. There were a lot of little ones. Like, honestly, every ally that meets Vincenzo ends up simping for him. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, even like the good guys, the righteous guys, they're like, wow, Vincenzo, so cool, consigliere, Mafia dude, Mr. Corn Salad, because they can't pronounce consigliere. They call him Mr. Corn Salad, and they simp for him. Like, they know that once they find out that he's actually in the mafia, they're like, oh, you've killed people? That's okay. I respect that, and I respect you. You did nothing wrong ever in your whole life. Like, that type of thing. But yeah, pretty much everyone he meets simps for him. He has, just to note a few bromances in case you're curious, he has a bromance with Chairman Hanso, and it's really cute because Hanso ends up calling him Vin Hyung, and that is the cutest thing ever. He calls him Vin Hyung, and Vincenzo doesn't really want to get close to anyone like that, but he indulges Hanso and calls him Dongsang, so it's really cute. It's really cute. He has a bromance with I'm trying to find here, Mr. Cho Yong-un, who is his business partner trying to get the gold out of the building. And he has a bromance with An Gi-sok, who works for the intelligence agency. Who, honestly, he's one of the biggest simps in the show for Vincenzo. He starts off with spying on him, and then he ends up being like his lackey. He is just he even gets to like, on multiple occasions, he wants to hug Vincenzo and he gets to hug Vincenzo. So like, you know, Vincenzo indulges him. Oh, and mini spoiler, just to let you guys know. Remember I mentioned Shinkwang Bank Finance? This family is the one that got his mother sent to prison. Hwang Min Song. Okay, Hwang Min Song has a certain type in lovers, and his type is Vincenzo. And you will see later on in the show that Vincenzo approaches him and uses that to his advantage. He ends up taking on a honeypot mission and actually goes out on an actual date with Hwang Min Song. So just let you know, there is an actual bromance in this show. And of course, even though he is the enemy of Vincenzo and his mom, he falls head over heels for Vincenzo, as does everyone in this show. But yeah, just to let you know that there are quite a few bromances in this drama, if you are curious to know that. It's not in your face, and it's really hilarious, but it just goes to show you how beloved of a character he is to everyone, despite being an actual literal murderer. Yeah, he's kind of like, think of him as like that cat that like does a lot of bad things, but everyone likes him anyway. Everyone's like, oh, my poor little meow meow who did nothing wrong ever. So cool, so cute, so fluffy. Protect him at all costs. That type of thing. Okay, now that I've told you all about the pros that I had with Vincenzo, and there are a lot, like I mentioned, please watch it if you are interested in something that is really ruthless and dramatic and action-packed and also, surprisingly, really funny. There are also some cons I had. And these are all really subjective. This is just my personal opinion. But number one, and these are also small, they're not really that important, but number one is that Vincenzo seems to have unlimited resources. Like, he just seems to pull money out of thin air. And I know that he worked for the Mafia and he had a high position, so he's like, it's understandable that he has money, but I thought that the reason why he went to try to get the gold bars from South Korea was because he was running low and he needed the money, but he seemed to have like unlimited funds. Like, he needs to set up a huge lavish party. Well, he has the funds for that. He needs to buy off all these people. He has millions of won to just give out. He needs to hire hitmen for certain things. He has money to spare. Like, how does he have so much money? Actually, on his way to South Korea, when he first landed, he ended up getting conned. He got kidnapped, beat up, and his wallet was stolen, and his watch as well. So I was surprised. I thought that he lost his money. And also, when he arrived in South Korea, he went to live in a really dingy apartment. So I was thinking, oh, he must not have a lot of money, that he's living in a dingy one-bedroom apartment. But no, he's really rich. So I was like, where does he get his money from? But yeah, just like nitpicking small details, like where does all this money come from? Number two, another con or weakness I had with the show was how outlandish it was. Like, it was equal parts amazing to watch, but also kind of ridiculous in a way because of how over the top his plans were to foiling the enemies. It was really goofy sometimes. Like, despite, like, aside from like actually going and killing them and like shooting them and stuff, he also does like really weird things like fake bombs and like using hornets to like freak people out in a court trial, to invalidate the court trial. A lot of them don't seem legally or logistically accurate. I don't know much about like the legal system, but I feel like in real life that would not slide. The things that he was doing would not slide. He would have probably been arrested a lot earlier than he was. Somehow the police never caught on to him, and he was, I'm pretty sure he was doing a lot of illegal things, but the police never seemed to have any dirt on him to arrest him. So I thought that was a little unrealistic, but I mean, it's good to watch. It's satisfying to watch him win so much, but at the same time, it seems really over the top. Also, he doesn't hide his location. The enemy Babel group knows where he lives. He doesn't hide where he lives. He doesn't go into hiding. But he's never worried about being attacked or targeted or like getting assassinated. He just lives in his 1-bedroom apartment. Everyone knows where he is. And no one seems to go after him, like try to attack him at home. So I'm like, oh, okay. Also, another thing, Vincenzo is very OP. Like, he is a one-man show. He can take down over 10 to 20 men with his bare hands alone. He does not need a weapon. He is that strong. And it's very satisfying to watch because it's really cool to see a character that's very, very OP. But at the same time, he never seems weak. Like, there are hardly ever times where you see him with a weakness. And so that makes him seem a little unattainable or unrealistic. But I still enjoyed it nonetheless. Okay, number 3. And I think this, number 3 and number 4, which I'm going to say, are the two biggest cons or weaknesses I had with the show. Number 3 is that I felt like, and this is again my own personal opinion, there were a few unnecessary character deaths. There were certain characters that ended up dying that I felt didn't need to die, didn't have to die, would not have affected the story if they didn't die, should not have died, / could have been utilized better. There are certain characters that I felt could have been used to advance the plot in a better, more productive way, and the show ended up kind of just tossing them out. And, you know, that's the writer's decision, that's the show's decision. My personal opinion is that there were some characters that I wish didn't have to die the way they did. But yeah. Okay. And then finally, number 4, and this is a con more about like what I wish would have happened, was that I wish we saw more of Vincenzo's childhood and past in Italy, like how he joined the Mafia. So when the show starts, and throughout the whole show, it just starts with him already being the consigliere, running away from Italy and escaping to South Korea, and then just doing his business in South Korea. Never once does his old stepbrother Paulo send men to like assassinate him in South Korea. They don't send men after him, even though he ran away from Italy. He has a lot of enemies in Italy, but none of them seem to try to pursue him and take him out when he's in Korea. And also, I wanted to know more about his childhood. We never got any flashbacks about how he ended up going from being a foster kid in Italy to joining the Mafia and becoming like the adopted son of the Cassano father, head of the Cassano family. I wanted to see flashbacks of how he learned to shoot a gun, how he got inducted, the kind of, because we got small flashbacks once in a while of him remembering some of the kills and the hits he did, but I wanted to see some more, like his first kill and how that psychologically and mentally and physically affected him, and how he went from being just some poor orphaned kid, no, not orphaned, well, his mother wasn't dead, so he wasn't orphaned, right? This poor fostered kid from another country who faced, and he mentioned that he faced racism, right? So I would have liked to see like some of the struggles and hardships he faced as an adolescent in Italy, like maybe like the racism that he faced as being in like a Asian kid in a predominantly white country, how he had to prove himself reliable in the Mafia, how he gained prestige and respect from the other Mafia members, because he's very young and he has a lot of men that follow him. So I want to know how he managed to work his way up the ranks, which we didn't get. But if Netflix is interested in making a season 2, which I hope they do, because there's still time. This show just came out last year, so there's still time. I hope that if they do decide to have a season 2, then they will maybe explore more of his Italian Mafia side of his life in the future. Maybe like since he had enemies in Korea in season 1, maybe in season 2, we could have some Italian enemies. Maybe the Mafia is finally sick of him and finally wants to get rid of him, and he has to fight them. Maybe we'll get some more flashbacks about how he had to struggle and work his way up the ladder in order to become the consigliere, you know? And there are people that are still on his side. There are a lot of people that's still on his side. And I feel like there's still unfinished business that he has, because at the end of the show, he stays a villain. He doesn't reform himself. He doesn't change his code. He started off the way he was, and he ended the way he was. And so I want to see if there's anything else that we can get out of him in a potential season 2. But yeah, so to conclude my discussion about Vincenzo, if you are looking for a drama that is dark, very, very dark, and unapologetically ruthless, almost sadistic at times, but with still a good balance of humor and a lot of action, plus surprisingly wholesome found family moments, then I think you will really enjoy Vincenzo. Thank you. Yeah, so if you have watched Vincenzo already, please let me know your thoughts on the drama, but please mark your comments as spoilers in case there are people watching this video who have not watched Vincenzo. And if you have not watched Vincenzo before, please let me know if you would be interested in watching it. And if you do watch it, let me know what you think. Have you watched, and if you do watch it, are you watching it because you're interested in the plot? Are you interested in the bromance? Are you interested in the moral ambiguity of the main protagonist? Are you interested in Song Joong-ki as an actor? I haven't actually watched him in anything else, so this is actually my first time watching him in a K-drama, because I didn't watch him in Descendants of the Sun, although I know of him. But yeah, so if you decide to watch it or have watched it, let me know in the comments. And other than that, thank you for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye!